I've had the privilege to get to know Miss Bonnie Bonadeo. I met her through the Speaker Talent Search that Rebecca leads. And so Bonnie was a beautiful guest on my podcast. And then I had the opportunity to also be a guest on her podcast. And so this is actually a great example of how relationships start to build and grow, as you start to step into different visibility. And so Bonnie, she's an incredible leader, as I mentioned earlier, and she is very much involved in helping people in the space of connecting and branding. And so without further ado, I would love to welcome to the stage Miss Bonnie Bonadeo.
Thank you, Marlene. Okay, so my father wanted a boy. Lo and behold, out pops girl number 3. Now, I don't know how I knew, but I had this knowing, this deep, innate knowing I was not supposed to be a girl. And as time progressed in my childhood, evidence proved me right. So fast forward, I'm 40 years old, and I ask this question. This is it? Good Lord, is this it? I'm unhappy. I have a beautiful home. I'm unhappy. I have a great job. I'm unhappy. I'm making really good money. I'm unhappy. I'm in a happy marriage, so I thought, I'm unhappy. I have a beautiful son who's 4 years old at this time, and I'm unhappy. And I took a very courageous step, or you might say a midlife crisis, either way, and I got a divorce. I quit my job, I started my own business, and I became a single mom. And it did not make me happy. Instead, it made me very stressed. And I had to really look at, what was going on here. So of course I thought, well, I need to go to a retreat and, find me here. And I took yoga, and I made appointments with spiritual readers and Turkish coffee readers, and I bought crystals and essential oils, and none of it made me happy. And then I realized in this moment, crap, there is something wrong with me, and it's not external, it's internal. And what do you do when you realize that you have an internal problem? You go trot your ass to a therapist. So there I am. I choose this therapist that had this satellite office in a grade school. So I didn't have to drive all the way downtown. It was very convenient. But I remember the anxiety I had walking into a grade school to go meet with my therapist. All the little kiddies, the smell of books, the office, the very scary principal office. And we sat in this room with this big conference table, and I remember just regurgitating across the table verbally my sad little pathetic life. And she would nod her head, and she'd ask questions occasionally, and then there'd be this moment where I swear I saw judgment on her face. And I'm like, was that judgment? Did she just judge me? But there was some relief to kind of letting go of that emotional baggage every other week. And so I thought, okay, this is fine. And I would go back and I would share, and I would cry, and I would feel judged once again. And after a couple times, I'd say a couple months actually, I was driving away, and I wasn't even a mile down the road, and this anger came up in me. And I recognized this. It was becoming my friend. This angry friend kept showing up. And I'm like, where is this coming from? And so I'm thinking, therapy is not helping at all. So I decide that is not going to work for me, and I needed to figure something else out. And as I kind of progressed on, I'm realizing now that it's like, oh my God, I got 2 failed marriages. I started a business at the onset of a recession. I'm broke, and nothing's working in my life. And I'm mad. I'm mad. And I'm blaming everything in the outside world. Well, thank God for friends and family that, kind of hold you up, lift you up, and support you. And I had this friend that decided, she says, why don't you come to this seminar with me? And I'm like, of course I'll go to a seminar with you, thinking I'm supporting her, right? So I go to this seminar, and it's based around emotional intelligence. And I'm sitting there, and I swear the speaker is talking directly to me. And she's saying everything that I'm feeling. And she's describing me in this seminar, and I'm thinking, what's happening here? But it gave me a sliver of hope that there was something that I could fix about myself based on the knowledge that she was sharing. So I thought, that's it. I'm going to hire her as a coach. I have no money. I don't know how I'm going to pay for this. She was incredibly expensive, but I did it anyway. So I signed up for her as a coach, and I'm thinking, she's really going to help me launch my business and get it off the ground, and I'm going to be successful. And so I send her all the paperwork, give her a little overview of me, and on our very first call, she starts tapping into my childhood. And I'm like, oh, no. We've been down this road before. There's nothing in my childhood that's going to make my business better. But she was very persistent in believing that this anger was a fight response, and it stemmed from my childhood. And I thought, it's kind of logical there. So I thought I would go with it since I had already committed to paying her a bunch of money anyway. What was I going to do? So I ended up listening to her, and she went on to ask me 3 questions that would forever change my life. 1, what could you be doing with your energy if you weren't angry or fighting all the time? I'm not fighting. 2, how could you be using this energy if you weren't angry and fighting all the time? Not me, it's them, and them, and them, and the whole world. I am who I am. And 3, who could you be if you weren't angry and fighting all the time? And that was the one that brought me to my knees. And I felt this bubbling in my gut. And it started coming up to my throat, and it started burning bad. And I wanted to scream, I'm not fighting! And then I realized, oh my God, I'm fighting. I am seriously fighting. But I couldn't even say that because in that moment I had this awareness that my entire life was wrapped around fighting. And so I tried to muster up something really good like, oh, I'd be a better person and I would be more loving and generous and successful. I couldn't even get that out. That was like a jagged pill. All I could muster up out of my voice at this moment was me. I'd be me. And I didn't even know who that me was. It was like I needed an introduction to who me was. Now, I wasn't the easiest client. I fought my way through the entire coaching program, which is why I became a coach, by the way, because I made her life so miserable I had to have some payback. But I realized I was fighting. Every time I was fighting. And you start to then become aware of your behaviors and the approach that you have to things. And as I started to really recognize what I was doing, there would be moments of stillness that I'd never experienced before. Stillness that kind of opened up something about me. And I would recall memories that were happening. And it started like this. I was the 3rd girl. My sisters and I are 16 months apart. And my sisters have always had this, being the youngest, my sisters have always had this unique connection. So I always felt like the 3rd wheel. I wasn't close to them, even though we were all 16 months apart. I knew my father wanted a boy. I later found out when I understood language that my name was supposed to be Robert. And at the last minute, because I was born a girl, they had to choose a name really quick and they chose Bonnie. Even the kids in my neighborhood were all little boys my age. There was no little girls my age. And it just kept proving over and over again, what is it? Why was I born a girl? Well, one day I was over at my friend's house, Wesley, boy, and I got to paint the picture here a little bit. It's the 70s. The walls have very dark paneling, and the curtains are burnt orange blackout. Okay, so you couldn't tell whether it was day or night inside the house. And Wesley's mom says, Wesley, it's time for dinner. And I jumped up, I'm 5. I jumped up and I go running out of the house because I knew I was always supposed to be home before dinner. Always. And when I went running out of the house and the door opened up, It wasn't dark, but it wasn't light, what we call dusk. And so I knew that I had to get home as fast as I can. And there were two ways for me to get home because Wesley lived on the street behind me. One was by a very, very dark desert, and the other one was kind of through the neighborhood, so you had to walk by all the houses. And it seemed a little bit longer, but I felt like that was the safer way to go. And I thought if I just ran really fast, I'd still make it home before it was dark. So I went screaming out of the house, only to find a neighbor a few doors down started chasing me, nabbed me, brought me into his house, and sexually assaulted me. I managed to escape when his mother came home, and it created a diversion for me to get out. And when I opened the door from this house, it was really dark, and I knew I was in trouble. And so what do you do in a 5-year-old mindset when you know you're going to get in trouble because you're not home before dark? You don't go home. So I decided to hide in a trash can. And I heard voices calling my name in the neighborhood. So I must have been gone long enough for them to be like, where is she? What happened to her? And I was afraid to let an adult find me because adult would mean I was in trouble. So finally I heard my sister nearby, my eldest sister, and I heard her calling my name, and so I jumped up out of the trash can, and she came running over to me, and she screamed, I found her, I found her. And then we walked home, and then my mom sat me at the table, and we had dinner. And that is it. That's like it for my memory. I don't remember anything else after that. But I do remember this. I realized it was very bad to be a little girl. And it just proved more evidence that I should have been born a boy. Now, as I kind of progressed through my childhood, this is what I did. I took on a very, very strong personality. Don't mess with me, I'll beat you up. And I became this tough little girl that didn't want to be a girl. And I kind of progressed all the way through my life in regards to that. And even at 18, when I was very clear I was a woman, it wasn't an identity crisis of what sex I was. It was an identity crisis because I had been told it's not safe to be a girl. Even at 18, when I realized as I was growing up as a child, I wanted to be an astronaut. And by the time I got into high school, I wanted to be a lawyer because I was a good fighter. But in that moment, neither one of those career options were going to work for me because I was a girl. And there were some ladies in the neighborhood, and they did hair. And this is what girls did. So I'm like, well, I guess I got to go into beauty school because that's what girls do. And I ended up going into beauty school. And it served me well, obviously. But here's what I learned about my story. And I want you to think about your story as well in this moment, that there's always two parts to a story. One, what actually happened, the facts. I was born a girl, I was sexually assaulted as a girl. Two, the meaning you give it. And the meaning that you give it is the part that keeps us stuck in life. The meaning I gave that story was I was unwanted, I didn't belong, and it's not safe to be a girl. And in all of that, that's what I've carried with me until I got to this 40 years of age and started having breakdowns in my life because I never healed that part of me. I never even acknowledged that part of me. And that's the part that really emotionally triggers us in life to sometimes not find the success that we're looking for. I became very protective, and fighting was the only way that I knew how to do this. My unwanted, as I progressed, because mind you, we all have to do our work, right? You've heard every speaker on this stage up to this point. You got to do the work. You got to know who you are and to heal what's happened, because we all have stories. I want you to think about it for yourself. Think of one story in your life, put the fact to it, and then put the story that you gave it to it. What did you tell yourself in that moment? And it could be when you were a very young child, or it could have been yesterday. And we believe that other half. We believe that other half over the facts all day long, because that's the way we're hardwired. It's the emotional part of us that sticks with us forever until we heal it. And we keep working on it, and we keep working on it. Now, I did discover that my unwanted, through many of my coaching programs that I did and then becoming a coach myself, became my greatest gift. I realized that in my transformation of understanding that level of my story, I got to be able to shift and help other people to see where their story keeps them stuck. And I got to be able to work with them in ways that allowed them to let go. And I say that very carefully, because you can't just like, let it go. You know, when your friends say that to you, just let it go. There's work to be done to let go. And I help my clients do that. And I appreciate it. And I have some great success stories of clients that really makes my heart sing. It just makes my heart sing. But my unwanted became my gift. And as it became my gift, I realized that in order to connect, we have to really do these three things. One is we have to know ourselves. And this is the good, the bad, the guilty, the shameful, the unmentionable, and the ugly. We have to know ourselves. And this might require therapy. It might require hiring a coach. It might require doing the work or reading books or whatever it is that it takes. Know yourself. The second thing is own yourself. And ownership is a tricky word. It's a very tricky word. Because to own yourself doesn't mean not acknowledge it, deny it, or blame. Owning it means that there's nothing to forgive to begin with. Do you hear this distinction in that? When you own who you are, there's nothing to forgive. And the third thing is share it. Share who you are at every opportunity that you can get. Share your story. Share your life. Because that's how you are a contribution to others. That's my purpose. And it's how I contribute to others. And I have a beautiful life now. I have 37 years in the beauty industry. It's served me well. I mean, I've really had an amazing amount of success in beauty. I have beautiful parents who've been married for 59 years, and they support me in everything that I am and everything that I do. And I have a great relationship with my father. I have my sisters, 2 sisters, who are my best friends in life. And I have a beautiful son who's in his second year of college now, applying for business college. And I've had the honor of not only raising a boy, but raising a man. And that's probably like one of my most greatest accomplishments, is raising a man. I also recently got engaged. Yeah, this is big news, you know? This is big news. I got engaged last year to a wonderful man who I finally found like real love with. Because I did the work on me, I was able to find love, right? And he happened to be a past client, which makes it even more interesting, right? And I supported him in his transformational life. And we did discover that we had a lot in common. And last month we just bought a chartered yacht in the Caribbean so that we could go down there occasionally. It's very busy boat, booked all the time, but we will go down there occasionally. And we're in the process of changing the name to Better Days. And it's an Eddie Vedder song, if any of you are Eddie Vedder fans. And the first line of the song, Better Days, is, "I feel part of the universe opened up to greet me." And I really felt like that's what happened to me in life, is I got a reintroduction back to me. Now, you guys may not remember my name, Bonnie Bonadeo. You may not remember what I do. I'm a connection and branding coach, but you might remember my story. And I promise you that our stories is what creates connection. It's what creates that beauty of being able to be with another person. It provides compassion, forgiveness, trust, and love. And when you have that yourself, it's really easy to give that to other people. But again, it has to come from you, and you have to be really clear on who you are. So I help my clients create this story. They get to rewrite that part of that story that's been holding them back. And in the rewrite or the recurating of that story, we help them design that to be able to put it and apply it towards their business. So it's not only about them, it's about their business. Because what we know to be true is that people do business with people, not products. And so I help them to do that. And for those of you that are fans of Gary Vee, he says, no matter what, it's your job to tell your story. And I honestly believe that there's truth to that. And that's the truth in the Be You in beauty. Thank you.
Are you a speaker looking to reach more people with your message? You have a global vision that you want to touch the world and make a global difference. If so, I have an amazing opportunity for you. It's called the Speaker Talent Search. Again, that's the speakertalentsearch.com. You'll find all the details, but here are the highlights. With one application process, you get clarity on your message. You get to fine-tune how you want to reach the world. Then you'll have everything ready in one place for the opportunities when they come. Second, we select you as a finalist. You get to come in and audition with a 7-minute audition, open up the door to hundreds of speaking opportunities. I hope you lean in. I hope you say yes. We would love to hear your message. Help you touch the world powerfully. Again, that's the speakertalentsearch.com. We look forward to hearing your powerful message.